I am Maren Clark, and at 9:12 on a wet Monday in Seattle, a security guard I'd never met said my name like a command and walked me to the elevator. The glass doors of Calder and Byrne closed with that polite click that means you're not welcome anymore. I kept my spine straight and my mouth shut, while HR murmured about restructuring as if a career could be filed away like a binder no one opens. Outside, the rain turned the skyline to charcoal. I let it sting my cheeks because it was the only thing that felt honest. I drove home early and found a silk scent I didn't own drifting in the hallway. Lucas stepped from our bedroom with his shirt misbuttoned hair wet from my shower. A woman's voice floated from the steam. He tried to sell me a story about loneliness, then asked how we'd pay the mortgage now that your agency has moved on. I didn't throw anything. I opened a window and let the cold in until my lungs worked. When my father called, he used the voice he saves for boardrooms. He told me to come over, then told me I had a week to fix my life. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't ask if I was safe. He said failure didn't belong in our family, as if dignity were a membership I'd forgotten to renew. By nightfall, the day felt like a floor giving way. Job marriage, the last scrap of approval I'd been trained to chase. I took one small key from the dish by the door, the key to a cottage no one knows about, and stepped back into the rain. If rock bottom was waiting, I intended to arrive standing up and leave it the same way. Alone. The morning after felt unreal, like waking inside someone else's life. My suit jacket still hung on the chair, a relic from a version of me who had meetings and authority and a badge that opened doors. Now it looked like a costume. I stood barefoot in the kitchen tile, cold under my heels, staring at the blinking coffee machine, as though caffeine could negotiate with reality. The silence pressed in. Lucas hadn't come home. Some doors once opened only reveal rot. I packed slowly, jeans, sweaters, my personal laptop, my grandfather's watch. Move with intention, he'd said. I used to think that meant work harder. Now I think it meant leave when you need to. My phone buzzed. We need to talk tonight. Don't be dramatic. I left the message unread and zipped my bag. Rain streaked across the windshield as I drove through downtown. The Calder and Byrne Tower glinted like a monument to people who would pretend not to know me now. I didn't hate them. Cowardice spreads easily in glass buildings built on hierarchy. At my parents' house, the hedges were carved into obedience. My mother opened the door before I knocked. She always sensed storms. Her eyes flicked to my bag. She touched my arm like affection might trigger an alarm. My father called me into his study like a surgeon calling bad news. Victor sat behind his desk, fingers steepled. I didn't sit. So he said, "I hear you've made some impulsive choices. Losing my job wasn't a choice." He leaned back. "Good people aren't blindsided. You prepare. Stay here for a week, then stand on your own. I don't support collapse." "Is that what this is?" I asked. "It's a consequence." "I'm not staying," I said. "You had every advantage. Don't waste it because you can't handle pressure." Pressure. As if betrayal were posture. My mother hovered silently, begging for peace that never existed. "I'm not asking permission," I said, lifting my bag. "I came to say goodbye. Don't expect us to catch you if you fall." "I'm not falling," I said. "I'm leaving." And I did. The road south felt like a long exhale. Rain turned to mist over Puget Sound as Seattle faded behind me, quiet, finished. Lucas kept calling. I didn't answer. Silence was my shield. By the time I reached Cannon Beach, the sky had opened just enough for the ocean to show its colors steel slate certainty. The cottage stood behind a wind-bent cedar, small and simple. When I turned the key, the air changed cedar salt and freedom earned, not given. I walked to the sink, ran the tap cold, splashed my face, and breathed. Clarity came soft and certain. No one is coming to save you. So you will. I opened my laptop and typed the first line of my new life, call Carmen Ruiz, 9 a.m. That night, grief scratched from the dark memories of the boardroom, the escort, Lucas's stare, my father's voice. Panic rose sharp and fast. I stepped onto the deck. The ocean was nothing but sound and shadow. I whispered the truth. I was scared. Not of being alone, but of failing without witnesses. When success is survival, failure feels like death. But I had survived their expectations. I could survive their absence. The next morning I dressed simply. Jeans, wool coat. No armor, just me. Carmen Ruiz met me in her Portland office, calm and incisive. "We file for divorce immediately," she said. "Freeze assets. Gather proof of misconduct. Stay quiet and move deliberately. Move with intention." When I walked back to my car, the air felt cleaner. Fear hadn't vanished, but it had company, now resolve. Back at the cottage, one new message waited, not from Lucas, but from Noelle. I saved your files. Call me. There's more going on than you think. I sat down, heart steady. The world thought it had buried me in a single day. All they'd really done was give me soil. Noelle's message sat like a spark on my screen. I called her from the porch, waves pounding behind me. Her voice came whisper-soft, the kind used when walls might listen. Jared found something, she said. Email filters. Your client messages were routed to Cole. For months. I exhaled slowly. Sabotage wasn't theory anymore. It was structure, deliberate, and hidden beneath my feet. Send me everything, I said. I already did. Check the hidden folder. And I'm sorry. This isn't on you, I told her. When the call ended, I opened the files. Redirects. Altered decks. Notes implying I'd gone unresponsive, not incompetence execution. Someone at Calder and Byrne decided removing me was easier than competing. I didn't scream. I let the fury move like cold fire controlled useful. Rage destroys. Strategy rebuilds. Carmen would need this. So would I. At dawn, I dressed in black, steadying myself in the mirror. Logged into investor portals. A notification blinked from Northstar Labs, their next funding round. Northstar sharp, young, relentless. I'd been sitting on my stake like a relic. It was leverage. I wrote Grace Lynn. I'd like to discuss an advisory role ahead of your next round. Her reply came within 20 minutes. Of course, we trust your vision. Trust your... The next day, Northstar's converted warehouse office hummed with purpose. Grace and Neil treated me like a peer, not a scandal. I outlined market gaps, legacy failures, and where health communications disruption was overdue. If you're ready, Neil said, we'll formalize today. Ready used to mean armored. Now it meant honest. We drafted terms equity retainer freedom to build my own consultancy, and one clause I requested first rights in Pacific Northwest partnerships. A clean knife, precise. Outside sunlight hit the river like silver. They thought they'd erased me. They'd only cleared space. Back at the cottage, new alerts a confidential conversation request from Fairview Medical's VP. The dominoes were shifting, not victory momentum. The foundation beneath me was rebuilding stone by stone on my terms. Fairview's call came the next morning. Their VP's tone was careful. Why did you disappear during our campaign? I didn't, I said. My communications were intercepted. A pause. Then, we need to meet, privately. By noon, I was driving north again, not hiding, but returning with purpose. In Calder and Byrne's lobby, the marble floors gleamed, unaware of their ghosts. Paula stood at the elevator's folder, clutched like a shield. They're reviewing some things, she said. Panic disguised as professionalism. Upstairs, executives sat like defendants. Cole's nameplate lay face down. Carmen had already spoken with legal. My presence was confirmation, not confrontation. We're conducting a formal review, one partner said. Good, I replied. I left without ceremony. Vindication didn't need applause, it needed distance. Outside, the city moved on. My phone rang Victor. Silence first, then, your mother worries. His code for I do. I'm fine, I said. You're handling this. Not pride, disbelief. I am. Without rescue. He hesitated. I'd like to talk. I'll let you know. Back at the cottage, salt wind wrapped around me. They had tried to bury me under silence and doubt. But silence can be a weapon. Doubt fuel. Emails pinged in Fairview confirming our meeting. Grace excited for what's next. And Noelle Cole's gone. They're scared. I didn't smile. This wasn't triumph. It was power settling back where it belonged. Fairview met me in a glass office over Lake Union. Elise Porter, VP, asked simply, "We valued your work. Then you vanished." I didn't vanish, I said. My emails were altered. She slid me a folder, records, timelines, excuses that didn't match. Will you pursue action? I'm reclaiming my name, not burning the world. She nodded. We'd like to work with you directly. A door closing once meant loss. Now it meant choice. But peace never comes clean. That night, someone pounded on my cottage door. Lucas. Maren opened the door. We need to talk. No, we didn't. His face was tight with panic. You froze the accounts. You think you can erase me. I told you, I said through the door, calm. Everything goes through lawyers. He hit the door. You don't get to walk away. I already did. Blue lights washed over the dunes minutes later. The officers asked if I wanted to file trespass. Yes, I said. I do. After they left, I stood on the deck, sea air cutting through the dark. The ocean moved forward, unbothered, endless. So would I. They had taken my job, tried to take my name, my worth, but tonight I understood. Nobody takes your power. You hand it to them until you stop. When I turned back inside, my phone buzzed. Carmen's message. His attorney called. He's folding. I closed the door and let the night end quiet certain mine. The morning after the police lights faded, the ocean was gentle, as if it knew the storm had already passed. I stood at the counter with coffee in hand, watching gulls skim the water, and felt something rare space. The kind that appears when fear finally lets go. My phone buzzed. Carmen. Settlement finalized. He's waiving claims, no contest. I exhaled. No triumph, no thanks, just a reply. Proceed. Clean. Final. Then another email, Calder and Byrne, the managing partner himself. Maren, we acknowledge missteps. We'd like to offer reinstatement chief marketing officer effective immediately. I didn't laugh. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, I don't need you anymore. My reply was surgical. Thank you for the acknowledgement. I'm focused on my own firm. I wish you clarity moving forward. No anger, no nostalgia, just truth. Outside the tide was low rocks and sand glistening raw and honest. Healing looks like that exposed earth learning light. Later that week, I met Elise from Fairview at a marina cafe. We're transitioning the account to you, she said. Full autonomy. I'll build something worth that trust, I told her. She smiled. We already know. Trust once restored feels like oxygen. Driving home, my voicemail blinked, my mother's voice soft. Dinner this weekend. Just us. A bridge. Then a text from my father. Proud of you. 3 words, quietly expensive. I didn't reply. Growth needs room to echo. At dusk, I opened my laptop. Clark Strategies glowed on the screen. Clients waiting, young women writing for advice. My time, my terms. Competence as authority, not pedigree. The air smelled of salt and cedar. I poured wine, stepped onto the deck, listening to the ocean breathe. This wasn't starting over. It was starting true. People think rebuilding means clawing your way up. Sometimes it's quieter, choosing where to stand, what to keep, what to finally release. I lost a job that tried to shrink me. I lost a man who couldn't see me. I lost a father's approval I once mistook for love. And in losing them, I found space. Breath. Ground. My own name said in my own voice, unapologetic. Night rose over the water. Stars surfaced, small, steady, unconcerned with the dark. I raised my glass toward the horizon. Not in triumph, but in truth. They didn't break me, they revealed me. A year later, I woke to gulls crying above the surf and sunlight pooling gold across the quilt. I didn't need alarms anymore. Peace decided when I rose. The woman I'd been, the one who thought loyalty protected her, that success made her worthy, that silence kept her safe, felt like someone I'd already outgrown. I brewed coffee, opened the back door, and let the sea air and salt cedar beginnings. On the porch rail sat books sent by women I'd mentored, leadership, boundaries, ambition. Notes inside thanked me for saying what they hadn't dared, that power doesn't come from being chosen. It comes from choosing yourself. Clark Strategies thrived. North Star Labs expanded with me as lead advisor. Fairview's campaign was a national case study, and women I'd never met reached out not asking how to fight, but how to stand. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom, dinner tonight. Dad's grilling. He's trying. Trying is a language too harder than pride. I smiled. I'll bring dessert. In the afternoon, I walked to the shore. The tide left shallow pools catching pieces of sky. I touched the surface. It rippled alive, unfinished. Healing isn't linear. Some days the past tugs gentle as a wave, reminding you where you once stood before learning to swim deeper. Sometimes memories flicker, Lucas's voice, the cold dismissal, my father's disappointment. But they no longer own space in me. They're ghosts of rooms I've left behind. At dusk, I opened the final envelope, the divorce decree. Clean edges. Clean ending. I placed it in a drawer, not as a wound, but as proof of rebirth. That evening at my parents' house, my father handed me a plate and awkwardly asked about my firm. His tone held no authority, only curiosity. He laughed once, shoulders easing as if finally permitted to be human. Driving home along the coast, windows cracked to the sea. Stars pricked the sky one by one. The world felt wide enough to hold me, quiet enough to hear my own pulse. People imagine revenge as fire and fury, but the truest revenge is self-respect, lived gently, loudly, without apology. It's walking away without flinching, closing doors, softly building a life so rooted in truth, no betrayal can unmake you. I parked, stepped out, and breathed the night. I didn't rise from ashes. I didn't claw my way back. I simply kept walking until the world behind me fell away and the one ahead opened wide in mine, and I am still walking. Forward, always.